Okay, I have made a video on this topic before, and here is the sequel video. Thinking of long-term consequences. Thinking of long-term consequences too. And I make this video out of love and care for you, so you do not get corrupted by the sinful ways of the world. And I will get straight to the point, and I will also mention a number of other things as well. But to get started and to get straight to the point, before we say anything and before we do anything, we need to think to ourselves, am I about to say something that is good and honoring to God? Is it kind and honest and uplifting? Or am I getting tempted to speak a filthy joke or to say something that is unnecessarily hurtful? And if you are getting tempted to speak a filthy joke or say something unnecessarily hurtful, then you need to shut it down immediately and tell yourself and tell other people, no, stop, I'm not going to talk that way because I do not want to make dirty jokes. I do not want to hurt someone else's feelings, and I know what the long-term consequences are with sinful, filthy speech. The long-term consequences are that you can get into serious trouble at school and at work, and also other people do not want to hear filthy jokes, and saying unnecessarily hurtful things leads to people's feelings getting hurt. And so we always want to think to ourselves before we say something face to face to someone, or before we send a text message or post anything on the internet. Should I say this? Or is this a bad idea to say this? And if it's bad, then tell yourself, no, stop, I'm not going to say that because it's sinful and I know what the long-term consequences are. And I am sure that you know that. I am sure that you know that when it comes to talking and with what we are about to say. And I'm sure that you know it as well when it comes to our actions, that we should resist what is sinful according to God and do what is right according to God. But I will remind you of a few things when it comes to our actions, because the people at church will tell you one thing which lines up with God's way, but then you'll meet other people at school and work who do not care about God, and they may tempt you constantly to do things that are sinful with your actions. But I am always motivating you to do what is right according to God and to stay out of trouble. And, well, when it comes to any time, if someone is ever tempting you to go along with committing a crime or vandalism, you need to shut it down immediately and tell people, no, I'm not going along with you. I am not going to commit a crime or vandalism because I know what the long-term consequences are with crime and vandalism. There are long-term consequences for myself and for you. You know, crime and vandalism leads to jail time and extreme, unhappy disciplining. And for the people who are victims of a crime and vandalism, they feel very unhappy that something happened to them or their property or to something that they own. And yeah, they are very unhappy. So we do not ever want to go through with crime and vandalism. Just tell people, no, I am not going along with you to commit a crime or vandalism. I know what the long-term consequences are with that. And also with substances. If anyone is ever tempting you to get into smoking or drinking beer, then you need to shut it down immediately and tell people, no, I am not going to try that because I know what the long-term consequences are with smoking and drinking. People get addicted for many, many, many years to smoking and drinking. And there are real big consequences for people's health. A lot of people have severely damaged their health through smoking and drinking beer. And also, there are financial consequences with smoking and drinking. A lot of people in history have blown a huge amount of money on these substances, and all of that money is down the drain. And also, when people smoke and drink, sadly, that can influence other people to get into smoking and drinking. And we do not ever want to do that. And I know that while I have never gotten into becoming addicted to smoking or drinking, I hated it when I coughed up a lung. I was coughing and coughing and coughing for a half hour after trying a cigarette. That felt terrible. And with the one time I was drunk, that felt terrible. And I have never repeated those mistakes. I know that while I never got into smoking or drinking, I know what it's like to be addicted to something. And that would be drinking soda. Because when I was really small, my father handed me a can of soda, and I have been drinking soda every day ever since. And I am sure that with the people who are addicted to smoking and drinking, they feel the same way. They think, I cannot go a day now without my cigarettes. I cannot go a day without my beer. And we know what the long-term consequences are with cigarettes and beer, with people's health and their finances. And sadly, it influences other people to get into these substances. And also with the drinking, there are people who think, oh, I can drink and drink, now I'm drunk, and I can get in my car and make it home in one piece. And what has really happened in history? Drunk drivers have crashed into another car, and if the drunk driver has been killed, well, there's the consequence there. Or if the drunk driver survived, going to jail. And also for the other cars involved in a drunk driving accident. The victims are severely injured and or killed. And there are long-term consequences there. And so, yeah, I will always say to you, please stay away from smoking anything or drinking beer. And let us find our favorite tasty foods and the beverages that do not get you drunk. You can always drink a soda, a Mountain Dew, apple juice, orange juice, water, milk, or Gatorade. And say what you want about the soda, Mountain Dew, and the Gatorade, but all of these beverages, soda, Mountain Dew, apple juice, orange juice, water, milk, Gatorade, those beverages do not get you drunk. So let us find our favorite tasty food and the beverages that never get us drunk, and stay away from those harmful substances. And also, when it comes to dating and decisions involved with other people, you may be tempted by someone to break the boundaries and risk becoming a single parent, and you may be tempted to go through with some kind of physical pleasure that doesn't lead to pregnancy. But I'm going to tell it to you straight and what God's design is. God's design is when we date someone, get to know them, hopefully they are a good, godly character, and enjoy the pure, fun activities together and resist what is sinful. And when a couple gets engaged, continue to get to know each other and enjoy the pure, fun activities together and resist what is sinful. And then get married, have a wedding, and then try to become a parent. After getting married and having a wedding, then try to become a parent. But no, when it comes to the physical pleasure or trying to become a parent, that is not the thing to do while people are dating or while they are engaged. Only after getting married and having a wedding is it okay to try to become a parent. After getting married and having a wedding, then try to become a parent. And some people out there may tell you, well, go ahead and enjoy this other form of physical pleasure because it doesn't lead to pregnancy. Nope. Because remember, that is still a sin, and one thing can lead to another, which can lead to pregnancy. And also, if anyone's ever telling you, oh, come on, go through with that physical form of pleasure because so many people will think you're cool. Nope. Do not fall for that. Okay? You do not ever want to do anything sinful just to get more people to like you. You do not want to go through with that. And some people may tell you, oh, you can beat the odds. You can beat the odds and everything will work out. But look at what has happened in history, and look at what is happening still today. There are people who risk becoming single parents, and then someone gets pregnant, and people split up, and that leads to 18 years of long-term consequences. Not just a few months, or a few weeks, or a few days. We're talking 18 years of long-term consequences. And the single parents are very stressed out when they get only 3 hours or 2 hours, sometimes 0 hours of sleep during those first few years when a baby is crying a lot, day and night. And there are emotional consequences and financial consequences because raising a child is expensive, and it is very difficult to balance raising a kid and completing schoolwork and getting to graduation. And maybe college will happen, maybe not. And when it comes to finding a job and a career, that can be more difficult when someone is a young single parent. And when we think about our teen years and our 20s, when we are young and full of energy, we do not want to mess up our lives. We do not want to mess up our lives at any age. But when we think about our teen years and our 20s, when we are really young and we have all that energy, we do not want to mess it up when we are very young, because then life becomes very stressful and unhappy during the youngest years when we have all that energy. And, I feel for the people who have messed up their lives and they are very stressed out. And like I've said before, I have interacted with some people who became single parents and they are very stressed out and they are not having fun. They are not having fun. And I can say that as well about the people who got into substances and the people who went along with crimes. And I can say that about some people who said some inappropriate things and unnecessarily hurtful things. The long-term consequences are real. When we say things that are sinful and when we go through with doing actions that are sinful, the long-term consequences are real. And we do not ever want to make excuses to sin. Don't fall for any lies or excuses that may go through your mind, or the lies and excuses that come from other people. But instead, you be brave in saying no to people. Don't be afraid, but you be brave. To live for the light, to live for God, don't be afraid, be brave in saying no to people. Saying, no, I am not going to go through with that sinful idea. Forget it. Forget it. I'm not going to do that. And if people walk away from you because they don't like it when you said no, then let the sinful people walk away and find good company instead. Remember that bad company corrupts good character. But good company, good, godly company is very good for us, so we can encourage each other to live for the Lord and to make good decisions and to stay out of trouble. And I certainly hope that you can remember all of this. Remember that the long-term consequences are real. And any time when anyone plays with sin, there is a real risk of suffering and long-term consequences. And we do not want to go against God's design. We do not want to go against God's design. And right now, if you are thinking to yourself, oh no, I have gone against God's design with one of these things or a couple of these things, then I would like to pass along a word of comfort by reminding you that all of us have sinned. All of us have sinned. Jesus is the only one who never sinned. But all of us, outside of Jesus, all of us have sinned. And it is very nice and calming and refreshing to know that we can go to the Lord and ask for his forgiveness. And after receiving forgiveness, let us live in the light, do what is right, and go and sin no more. Ask the Lord for forgiveness, receive his forgiveness, live in the light, do what is right according to God, go and sin no more. And one final note, so I can remember to tell you this. Sometimes you may be tempted to do something sinful in a few days from now or in a week from now, And you may be tempted to go somewhere in the near future and do something sinful. And when that happens, if you know that something is going to happen in the near future, if you know something sinful is about to happen and someone's tempting you to go somewhere and do something bad, you shut it down immediately and tell people, no, I'm not going there on the weekend. Forget it. I'm not going, because I know what the long-term consequences are, and I am not going to mess up my life. And also, sometimes we can be tempted in the moment all of a sudden to do something sinful. And when that happens, then get out of the building. Get out of the building, get out of the situation, get away from those people immediately. Tell people, no, I'm out of here. Forget it. Get out of there. And if you need to, run to a trusted authority figure and, go to them for help and stay away from the sinful idea. Okay? You do not want to severely mess up your life. I know that all of us have made mistakes, but there are some mistakes that lead to long-term consequences, and I have spoken about that here today, and I have mentioned all of this out of love and care because I do not want to see you severely mess up your life. But instead, always remember that long-term consequences are real when it comes to sinful decisions. And some older people may say or think, well, the young people never give a thought about long-term consequences. But I believe it that you can think about the long-term consequences, and I believe it that you can do what is right according to God. I believe in you. I believe in you. And let us continue to pray for each other and motivate each other. Let us pray for everyone around us to resist what is wrong according to God, do what is right according to God. Pray for the young people, and pray for the older, experienced people as well. And let us always remember that long-term consequences are real, and let us learn from the past. Let us avoid sinful decisions, and let us do what is right according to God and keep on living for God. I just wanted to share all of that today because it has been on my mind to record a sequel video for thinking of long-term consequences, and I hope that all of this has made sense. I know that this has been another serious, heavy video, but it's very important to think about this. And whenever you have the time, you can always come back and watch this video again. And I thank you for watching another talking video. I thank you for listening. Stay well and be safe, and always stay on your guard. And I will see you later. Thank you.